Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another day of teaching and learning. I hope everyone's doing well. I miss and love you guys so much. And remember, if you need anything, just give us a holler. So today we're going to be talking about your learning packet from last week and the article, Whose Foot? It's the second article in your packet, and let's get to it. So, Whose Foot is a nonfiction article, and it is about measurement. Long ago, people used to measure using their feet, and that's where the term foot came from. People used to measure using their feet. But I wonder what a problem could be if everyone just continued to measure using their feet. That's the question that we're going to explore. What are some problems that you could think of? A problem that I can see is my foot, even though I'm an adult, is super tiny. I wear a kid size 4. So if I'm measuring, let's say I'm measuring the floor to my apartment, and I use the size of my foot, it's going to take way more than the size of Miss Jordan's foot, and she wears, a slightly bigger shoe. So we would have different forms of measurement. My measurement of measuring my floor using just my feet might be 35 Miss Morrow's feet. Whereas Miss Jordan, who has a slightly bigger foot, hers might be 25. So how do we know what the real measurement is? 25 feet or 35 feet? That's what we're going to talk about today when we read the article, Whose Foot? Our goal is we can read a nonfiction text to determine the main idea of the passage. Now, when I think of the main idea, I think of two things. One, I think of the overall most important part of the story. And then I think about the question, what does the author really want me to learn? And why did the author decide to write this? So while we're reading the article, we're going to be pausing and stopping and looking for the main idea. Our overarching question is, why do we need standard measurement? Why is it important that all of us use the same size tools to measure things? All right, so now let's talk about what is standard measurement. Standard measurement is when you measure anything using the same tools as everyone else to get the same measurement as everyone else. As you can see, if you look at this part of our little cute anchor chart here, standard forms of measurement are regular forms that everyone uses. We have a ruler, we have a yard, an inch, a foot, a meter, a centimeter, a mile. Those are things that everybody uses. So that's why it's standard, because everyone uses it. Now, non-standard forms of measuring are kind of silly and fun to measure with. You could use anything to measure if you're using non-standard measurement. You could use paper clips, pop cubes, your hands, your actual feet, a pencil, a book. Those are just kind of fun, silly ways that we can measure when we're learning what measurement is. But now that we're in 4th grade, one thing that we do need to know is that everybody uses a standard form of measurement, so that if we really needed to measure something important, like the length of a house, the size of your TV, the size of your yard, how many miles you've driven, everyone's on the same page. Because if I tell you to go walk, 5,000 feet and you use your tiny little feet, it's going to look different than my 5,000 feet. But if we're measuring it using a yardstick or a ruler, then our 5,000 feet will be the same. They'll match up. That's why we use standard measurements. So remember, our overarching goal is to learn the main idea of a text, and the main idea is what a text is mostly about. What is the one thing the author wants us to learn? Some clues to help you find the main idea is 1, asking your question, what is the text mostly about? Looking at the title and the headings, if there are any. These are for nonfiction texts. You look at the pictures to help you determine meaning. And sometimes you can look at the first sentence in a paragraph or the last sentence in a paragraph. And I know it's kind of difficult for us to remember all these things when we're looking at the packets that we have printed out. But if you're in my homeroom or second block, you remember that anytime we get a passage, we number those paragraphs. So if you number the paragraphs and look at the first or last sentence, it would help give you the gist of the article, which is what the article is mostly about. And then you look for clue words that are used repeatedly. So words that are used over and over again. If an author loves a word or idea or a phrase enough to repeat it, then you best believe that it's important. You guys ready for the article? I am totally ready for the article. Remember, the first thing we do when we're reading is hold on, we're not ready for the article yet. Sorry, I looked at my slideshow wrong. Remember, nobody's perfect, not Ms. Morrow. All right, let's take a look at our article. Our article today, I'm going to put it on full screen so I won't be able to see my face. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. And if not, that's okay. All right, full screen. Oh, good. We are able to see it. Let me move myself over here. Okay, this is the article that you either have in front of you on my screen or you have printed out beside you. So let's look at it. We're not reading it yet. We're just observing the text. So the title, which is one thing that we can use to help us determine the main idea, is Whose Foot? And it was written by Liz Yuck and illustrated by Holly Hibbert. So if you can see this is a real text. This is a real book, and we're just looking at one passage from the book. So if you ever want to check out this book from the library to look at the illustration, you know that it was written by Liz Yuck and illustrated by Holly Hibbert. Maybe you can check and see if it's a YouTube video or if it's on Limitless Libraries. Remember, Limitless Libraries is still a great resource for you to use. Okay, Whose Foot? I'm going to look at the paragraphs and I'm going to number them. I see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 paragraphs. It's a magic number. Now I'm going to look for some unknown words, words that I might have a hard time learning about. So a great reading strategy to use would be to highlight or underline or circle any words that might confuse you and that you want to know more about. That way, before you read the text, you can ask your teacher a question, or you can go online and look up the meaning, or you can look up pictures. Even if you don't want a big wordy dictionary, one thing that I did for the vocabulary that I pulled out was I just did a Google image search and searched up the pictures. So that was really helpful for me because there were some things in this article that I had no clue what they meant. All right, so here are the words that I picked out. I'm going to take us back to the slideshow and I'm going to move my screen down. I'm learning this. I'm learning how to do this. I'm pretty proud of myself right now. All right, so some of the vocabulary that we are going to find in our article is a surveyor. If you look at the picture, what do you think a surveyor is? I bet you got it right. A surveyor is a person who goes out and surveys the land, and they measure the land using tools. So a lot of surveyors use a tool similar to this. They're not going to use, different tools because we want all of our measurements to be the same. Then you're going to find that the ancient Egyptians, they used to measure using something called a cubit. And a cubit is the length of from your elbow to your fingertips. So this is a cubit. I wonder what types of challenges the ancient Egyptians faced when measuring using cubits. What are some challenges you think they might have faced? You're absolutely right. Some of the challenges that they faced was that everyone's cubit could be different. A taller person would have a longer forearm, whereas Miss Morrow and her T-Rex arms, that's pretty short. Two other words that you're going to find in the text is them comparing a carrot to a carob seed. These are carob seeds right here. You can see how tiny they are. And if you measure one, it's about 1 centimeter. Well, when you wear jewelry, they measure the stones in carats. So the bigger your stone, the more carats it has. Now, you might be like Miss Morrow and prefer inexpensive jewelry. So her carat in her ring is probably only 1 carat. But someone with a big flashy ring, they might have multiple carats. So that's how we measure things. That's how we measure stones in jewelry, is by carats. And a carat is about the size of a carob seed. Okay. All right, now it's time for us to look at the questions. Hopefully my face is covering up those comprehension question answers because we try to answer first. So I'm going to read the questions. What is the main idea of this article? So remember our tips and tricks about teaching main idea. Why might 2 ancient Egyptian surveyors measure the same pyramid and get 2 different lengths? And why did French revolutionaries develop the meter? So when I read the text, I'm going to be thinking about what is the main idea that the author wanted me to learn. Why might 2 ancient Egyptian surveyors, remember those are the people who measure things, measure the same pyramid and get 2 different lengths. Length is how long something is. And why did the French revolutionaries develop the meter? So when I'm reading the text to answer that question, I'm going to look for the word French revolutionaries and the word meter to give me clues and show me where to look in the text. Okay, let's go to our next slide. All right, let me move my face. Okay, whose foot? Have you ever wondered why a foot is called a foot? The humble foot has been used as a measure by Greeks, Romans, Babylonians, and Frankish kings. And it was the length of, yes, a person's foot. But whose foot exactly? Some people's feet are small, and some people's feet are large. At one point in time, Frankish King Charlemagne made everyone use the length of his foot. So, wow. Feet, using feet to measure. Blech. Many other ancient measurements were based on the always handy human body. Ancient Egyptians used the cubit. A cubit is the distance between the elbow and the tip of the middle finger. It's a cubit. But everyone's arm is a different length. Eventually, to stop arguments, the pharaohs made an official royal cubit. It measured 20.4 inches or 52.4 centimeters. Everyone else had to measure their cubits by that. So they changed it once they realized that everyone's arms have different lengths. They changed it into a standard form of measurement where everyone's cubit was now the same size. Used mostly for measuring cloth, a yard was the distance between the chin and the longest fingertip. Around 1130, King Henry I of England decreed that a yard was the distance between his chin and his fingertip. Later, an official yardstick was created and put on display so that everyone would know how long a yard should be. 2 yards, the length of outstretched arms, is a fathom. Interesting. Need to measure really small things? A carat is the weight of a carob seed. It is still used for measuring diamonds and other gems. A minim is 1/80th of a teaspoon. A minim can measure medicine or your brother's share of the chocolate. The rod was once popular for measuring short distances. It was the combined length of the left feet and of the first 16 men who came out of church on Sunday. This way, the different foot sizes averaged out. It was a pretty good way to get a standard measurement. A mile is the distance a Roman soldier could walk in 1,000 paces. Mile is Latin for 1,000. This works out to be about 5,280 feet or 1,609 meters. In ancient Egypt, surveyors were trained to walk with very even strides. So a stride is how long your steps are. So if you're a shorter person, when you walk, I'm going to get up and show you. When you walk, your stride might be short. Like this is me. 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. That's a short stride. Now, a taller person might have a long stride, where going across my computer screen only takes 2 steps. During the French Revolution, some revolutionaries decided that they needed revolutionary measurements. This new system didn't depend on king's feet, and it was divided easily by 10. So they invented the meter. A meter is the difference between the North Pole and the equator divided by 10 million. 1 meter is about 39 inches. Most scientists and many countries around the world now use their handy metric system. All right, tune into video 2 so we can go over the comprehension question answers and some activities that we have. Bye guys, see you in part 2.